All right, and we're back. Wow, that was weird. I had a crazy power hit, and that's why it happened the way it happened, right? So let's go back and check to see if we're back up here. And it looks like if I go back to, just to check this out, if I go back to me on YouTube, so if I go to me, my front page, and I see myself as a returning subscriber, I should see, yeah, this is playing, that's live now. That's good. That's a good thing. So it looks like we're live still. Everything's good. Whoa, that was a weird thing there. I got a little buzz in my ear. Looks like people are saying, hey, Tom, everything's back. Okay, so we're back up. And I apologize for the delay we had. That was kind of a weird thing. But we had a power spike at home. It kind of knocked me off the air for a bit, but we're back. Okay, so let's get back into it. So what did we do last before I got interrupted?
Power spike.
My little one's asking what the power. What's a power spike, Daddy? A power spike means that we lost power and we lost internet. Okay, so let's take a look at how this works. So could not resolve host. That was the problem. And let me upload to GitHub one more time, because that was what I was doing last time before we got interrupted. That's when I noticed things are bad. So what I did, just for everybody to kind of do it, I'm not sure at what point I lost connection, but I actually connected with my require authorization. I put that piece in play, right? So every time I go in now, if I go back up to my website, and if I was to try and go into users and I'm not logged in, let's say, for example, here, I'll log out. So I'll go log out. Log out. If I go to users now, it'll log me back. It'll force me back in there. And there's a couple problems I mentioned that I'm gonna have to deal with still. It's not 100%. Stop, Alexander. So it's not 100% that things are working. Stop, or else I'm gonna ask you to go. Okay. Daddy's is broadcasting right now. Sorry, guys. Okay, so but most of it's working. Now, there's some parts that are missing, and one part that's missing here in our project is I don't show that I'm logged in. So, for example, and there's no login, logout, or anything like that up here, and I'm able to see the user's link, and I don't want to unless I'm logged in. So that means I got to change my views. Okay, that's the next piece. I'm just gonna go back to my concept board here to make sure that everyone's good. So I'm actually back up, guys. If you have any kind of questions, let me know. It looks like just you guys are up here. Cool. Okay, so what I want to do now is build those views. So let's go back to here, and I want to go to my views. Here's my views, and I have the main view that's broken right now. I'll tell you right now, and the one that I have to change is in my partials, my nav bar. And it's a pretty ugly view, and I made it like this on purpose because I knew that I was going to have to come back here and fix it at some point, right? One of the things that I want to do is I want to check to see if my display name exists. Now remember, I added my display name everywhere, right? So I only want to show my users. That's the first thing I want to do when my display name exists. We're going to kind of compact this eventually. There's all these if statements so that there's only it's not going to be so crazy. There's going to be like one big block of code. But for now, I've kind of left it separate so you can see the differences. So let's do that. So let's say only if my display name exists. Remember, I'm only passing it in when I'm logged in, right? Then I want to show users. So let's put that in there. So let's say %if display name, right? So if my display name exists, right, then what I want to do, I want to show my user's link. Otherwise, I don't. So this is my user's link, right? And that's what I want to put in there like this, right? So this is if my display name exists, to show my user's link.
Go pee pee.
Okay, buddy, go pee pee. Hurry up. There we go. See, it's wonderful being a parent when there's ice and snow everywhere. Okay. So I got my display name, and in here I'm going to put the same thing in here. The only time I'm going to change it is when it actually is the user's page, right? So so it's going to be here. I'm checking for display. So I'm doing a lot of duplication, and that lends itself to, hey, Tom, that means that maybe there's some place we can change things around. Okay, and there is. We're gonna optimize this in a second, but first, one thing at a time. Okay, cool. This is where it's going to be different. So we're just going to kind of pop this in there. And then we're going to take this active class and replace the users with this one, because this is when the users are active. Of course, it's going to be there. We're going to look at the logic a little bit and see if that makes any sense. Okay. And the same thing goes with our, I'll put this over here so you can see this populate here. It's a lot of little links here. And it's the same thing over and over again, which means there's some options here for us to change things. Could there be one way of putting all this in and checking for our active class every single time? Take that back to Michelle, please. Okay, that's the first thing. So let's see if this piece works. I'm going to save it. Now remember, it's a view, so I don't have to reboot my server. And if I go back to my home page here, right? Go back to my home page, go to home, and refresh, right? Now I don't see my users. I don't see my users because I'm not logged in. So I can put in my login. And then when I log in, enter, right? Now I see my users page. It actually takes me there, right? Which is cool, right? But I won't see my users page when I'm logged out. If I log out, I'm logged out and no users. That's bad, right? So I mean, that's good. So I don't see a user because I'm not logged in. But I don't have a login and log out, and that's what I got to change in my bar as well. So let's go back. Close the door. Close the door, please. All right. So how do I do that? How do I go put that in? Well, here's the bottom of my class. I go, so if my contact page is good, I put my contact page, and I do all this kind of stuff. But at the end, just for now, keeping the same structure as I have in this broken, nav bar page that we have right now. And I've made it easy so you guys can see how EJS works with some of these if statements. I want to put another thing that says, well, and this is where the duplication starts again. If display name, right? So that's cool. If my display name is there, right, then what? Well, what I want to do is I want to say something like this. If my display name exists, then I want to do something like, well, display my my navbar text, welcome my user, right? So let's put in the closing braces. Right? And it's going to be the closing brace here, right? So if my display name exists, then do this, else, so display the thing, else if it doesn't exist, so if my display name doesn't exist, I got to do something else. I got to not display certain things, right? So it's going to be a kind of a conditional code here that I'm putting in. There's my if it doesn't exist. Here's if it does exist. So if it does exist, what I want to put in is I want to do a class of welcome. Can you gotta turn that right down, buddy? I love it when where things just don't work out exactly the way you like. Right? No, I'm sorry. I'm working. You're gonna have to turn it down, or else you're gonna have to go to the next room. All right. So what I mean by that is, so let's take a link, right? A couple links that we have in here. One link for logout, one link for login, and we're going to use this. We're going to use this thing as a stop. Stop, please. Stop. Stop. Or else I'm not going to do it. Alexander.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Well, then go to the other room and you can hear it there. I'm sorry. Please. Bye. Thank you. All right. Finally, a little bit of peace. It's fun to be at home, but it's fun to be at home alone. Okay, but that never happens when you're a parent. Let's take a look at this, and that's okay. So I'm going to go here, and so here's my display name. So it's not obviously the about page. What I want to put in here is a link to log in and log out. So if my display name is there, that means I'm logged in. That means I want to put in log out. Right, so log out as an option. Okay, log out. And obviously this is going to show the logout page. So I'm going to kind of use the logout right there. If I'm logged in, if I'm already logged in, show me logged out. However, if I'm not logged in, so there's no display name, that means I'm not logged in, show me the login page. Now, you can also show the register page, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go through the login page. And if you're not logged in, then you have to do the registration page to get there. So log in, log out. Right, this is going to be log in. That's cool. The other thing I want to do is if my display name exists, right, I want to show my display name, right? So welcome Tom as an example. That would be nice to show that one, right? So let's put another list item, right? So li, and we'll close that one off, right? So if I'm logged in, what I want to do is I want to use a class of navbar text. So it's a text item, right? It's on my navbar. It's not an actual link. And what I'm going to put in here is my welcome text. So it's going to say welcome, and then inside there, comma, inside these brackets, I'm going to say display name, right? So this is what I want to kind of show in the first place, right? So if I'm logged in, show my display name. Cool. That's cool. I like that. I also want to use a little bit of font awesome, right? So that way it breaks up some of the monotony of how this looks on the nav bar, because it looks pretty ugly to say login, log out. They all looked at the same links. So to break that out a little bit, I want to use a little user icon before my welcome. I want to use a login and log out, or sign in and sign out icon before my login and log out. So let's take a look at that on Font Awesome. So go to Font Awesome. And if I look at Font Awesome and I want to find an icon, right, like I've done this before, right? I want to find a user. If I say user icon, I want to put this little user icon in place when I'm logged in, right? So this is a little user. So that means I got to put this little code. I class FA user. Remember, we're using Font Awesome as for our icons already. So might as well be able to use this too. So go back to our code. And just before our display name, I'm going to put in this little user icon, right? And give a little, make sure there's a space between the user icon and the welcome. That's one. Okay, let's go back. And the other thing I want to go put it in is I also want to look at sign in and sign out. So let's say if I click on sign, I can see the sign in with a little arrow going towards the window, and then the other one is sign out, which is a little arrow that leaves. So arrow coming, arrow leaves. So let's do the sign in arrow, and of course that's just FA sign in. Right, so we're going to put this when we log in. We're going to put this right before the login, between inside the anchor tag here. Right, so there's got to be a space between this and the anchor tag, and I'm sure it's just sign out, but let's just check it to make sure. So sign, and I go to sign out here. Let's take a look at that. And sign out is just sign out instead of sign in. That's kind of simple. And I'm going to go back here and put in just before the logout, sign out, right? So I've got those, save it. Now that I save those and I go back to my views, right? So let's go back to my home and refresh. I should see this little thing that says log in. So this is cool. So this little icon breaks up the monotony, like I said, of this whole thing, so that we know when I'm not logged in. I can tell that I'm not logged in now because this little icon is here, right? If I click login, it takes me to my login page. I got to fix this view. And I want to do, again, Tom 12345, enter, right? And then I'm here, and notice that now it says log out. So now I know that I'm here, and I can also go see my users page, right? So log in, log out, and it also says welcome Tom. Look right here. So that's cool. So it means like, hey, it recognizes who I am and knows that I'm logged in. And if I log out, that's all gone. And I don't have access to my users page anymore. So that's kind of full circle there. We've done everything we need to do, but we need to make a couple other modifications to make sure that this looks nice. All right. Example, if I log in, let me log in one more time. So I go Tom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You guys can test it out too. Here's I'm logged in. I can see these little icons and so on. I'm good. And again, that's all. I told you there's some problems with adding users and so on. But if I go to add a user, I see a blank thing. I do see this. This is cool, right? I welcome Tom, log out. I can log out before I do my user. I would like this to be centered. I don't like the fact that this is over here on the left-hand side. And for me to check that, I can look at my my view. A bit of modifications here. Nothing too fancy or important, but it's nice to kind of have everything the same. So I'm going to go into my users, and I'm going to go into my ad, and I got to check to see. So here's my main. I include my nav bar, right? That's one thing. I don't have a user's link, an ad my user, right? You know, one of those kind of things. I don't have a back button either. So if I want to go back, I have a cancel button, but I don't have that. And notice that my form kind of hangs out in the middle. It says add a user, and there's a form. Here's the main, and it's in container, right? But it's not centered in any way. So main class, container, add a user. This is what I have. So I have a nav bar and a header. This is good, but what about my login page? Here's my login page. I have a header and a footer, but no nav bar. I don't know why. Let's go put those in. So go back here and grab this partials nav bar and put that in my login page. I want to kind of keep everything the same. So there's one little change I'm making, right? So partials. And the same thing goes here. If you notice, I have a header, but I really don't have a header here anymore. It's not going to the right place, right? Because, well, actually, this is correct. This is correct. This is wrong. So let's get rid of this. It has to have the right pathing, right? So this is wrong. And I want to take the same thing and put it into my registration page. My register page, I have my partials header, but I don't have my, in my registration form, I don't have this. Put that back. So my nav bar is back in there. So let's take a look at that and see how that looks. So back to the page. I'm going to go back. So notice there's a submit button, but I got a back button, but I got no cancel. And my cancel button here, my add new user, what it should do is take me back to the other page, right? So a cancel button. So I need that. So let's add a cancel button. And do I have an example of one? Let's go back one. I got a login button. Here's my login, right? And it looks like I'm logged out now, right? Okay, that's weird. Let's log in. So Tom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Log in, cool, right? And notice that when I logged out, and if I go back log in, I have my bar now. This is good. And it also has this login link up in the top here. Log in here and logged in there. I don't have a back button though for my main page, right? So that's one problem. I have a register page. Register page looks good. I have the main bar though. So again, look and feel wise, it's looking the same, right? I don't have a cancel button in any of them though, which is a bad thing. I want to have a cancel button there. How about when I log in, okay, and when I go to my edit, so if I go to here, my edit, I got a delete button, right? Delete button works. And how about when I go to, so edit does that, my delete button, add new user, I don't have a cancel button. So I want to add a cancel button to all these places, right? And when I click on the cancel button, I want it to go back. And I want it to go back to the home page. Okay, let's be clear on how this works, right? So if I go back to modify the view, I've got an input, right? Here's my field set and text right is what it looks like. Form group, text right. Here's my submit, right? And text right, and this is, by the way, I'm looking at my register page. My register page, text right, shoots my submit button to the right-hand side, okay? So this is, something to note, right? And the other thing is, do I want my submit button and my cancel button? My cancel should be farther to the right. So let's just kind of grab this. And I'm going to put this in play like this, a button. And instead of button success, I'll have a button default. So for cancel, right? So let's cancel the button. Or a warning, maybe a warning to cancel, because if I'm in the middle of accessing things, then this should be a different thing altogether. And it shouldn't be type submit, it should be type button, right? So it shouldn't be something totally different. And what it should do is when I'm moving, when I click my input button, it's got to do something. Hold on a second, I'll be right back. All right, so it's part of my form, but remember, part of what I want to do is when I click my input, my button, it's got to do something here. So how do I make it so that when I click my input button, it does something else, right? What do I do here, right? So I got to talk about this for you. We're going to look this up, okay, but I want to put it in place first. So let's try it out. So then again, I'm looking at this as when I look at my my whole container class. Notice here it's on my user registration page. So if I go back to log out and I go back to log in and I click user registration, I have my submit button and submit button. That's bad. Maybe because I didn't change the value. So let's just cancel. Right? And it's not going to be a cancel button. It's going to be just a regular button. So go back to here and refresh. You can see that it says cancel. If I click the cancel button, right now it doesn't do anything, but it will. When I make sure that when I click the cancel button, I go back and I go back to the main page, and it looks like it's still right justified, which is good, and it's around the same size. It looks a little nicer than what I had before. All right, so this cancel button idea is what I want to put in place. But how do you remember how to do an input? What do I do to make this button work? Because right now it's just this silly button. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere, as an example. So what do I do to make it work? So if I go back and check online, so if I want to put an input button, type button, right? And if I look at HTML, right, we can see that, just from an input type perspective, here's my value. My value can be submit, but there's different kind of buttons that I can have, right? Notice that I have button, checkbox, color. These are all the different values I have. Email, image, month, and blah, 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 blah. But what I really want to look at is this button. And then when I click on this button, it's got to do something, right? So there's a couple ways I can address this. One, I can do it inline like this. And I feel remorse when I do it this way. If I see this kind of line in, this is actually a bad thing to do. I want to make my cancel button work somehow. How do I do that? Right? That's the first thing. So that's one. Second thing is, if I want my cancel button to work, right, I want to wire it up somehow, right? I got to be able to use JavaScript to do that, right? So when I click on my cancel button, it's got to be responding to something. Like there's got to be some wire in the back end. I'm going to put it in place today, and we'll fix it next day. All right. The other thing is, what if I made it a button? So I say HTML button class. How do I do that? So here's my button tag. And then notice it says click me with the type of button. And then does it give me some code to do anything? And the answer is no, it doesn't. Because you got to wire it up. You have to target the button with an ID and so on. And that's how we normally do it. And also get Bootstrap. If you go to getbootstrap.com, right, without, if I go to the CSS side, right, and if I look at buttons, just a second, here's buttons. And it gives you some examples of how to create buttons, both in the input style and in the button style. Remember, these buttons don't do anything unless they're actually clicked, right? So again, button, class, type, and so on. And these are just regular buttons. So if I click any of these buttons, nothing happens. Here's the link, same thing. None of these buttons actually do anything, right? Large buttons and so on, and back buttons. But what other things can I do? Right, here's my active state if it's true, and I can make my buttons go. But they won't actually do anything right now because all of these buttons, if you look at them, right, they all are examples of how to code buttons or create CSS for buttons. But the buttons don't do anything. Why? Because I'm making the form. But let me go back. Let me go back to the form. There's also a cancel, no? So if I go back to this, and if I change my type from button to cancel, can I do that? Is there a cancel class, a cancel type? And so submit and cancel, right? And just to see if this is true, I'm going to go back to my code, right? So here I am with my register and refresh. Cancel's huge, right? If you click cancel, it doesn't do anything. How come it turned out so darn big? Why? Because cancel isn't really a type. It's still a button, right? So it should be a button, right? And if the value is cancel, right? As an example, my submit value, my type is a button. If I put my button as a submit, right? Actually, this goes back to let's go back to I'm going to submit, but I want to cancel my thing. What does this do, right? Like cancel the form kind of thing, right? So this goes back to form input. Let's make this a button for a second. We'll end this in about another minute or so. So if I go back to the forms, right? And if I go form buttons, right? Form buttons in W3 schools. Notice that in my type of buttons, I have a submit, a radio button type, text button type. So here's my input, text and first name, last name, radio buttons, the submit button. And we also have an action attribute for the form, right? To where it goes, the method attribute for what kind of method it does. We're not using these things right now. But what about if I want to make it a cancel button? I've got my submit button and all this kind of stuff. How do I make a cancel button? And one thing to do is just search cancel button, right? So cancel button HTML. How do I do that? And then button type attribute. And then you can see that there's a reset, type reset in the form, a reset, and values reset. So that's what it is, right? So if I go back to here, the value is reset, right? and the value is cancel. But that just resets the form. So if I go, why is this class div? I don't know why this is giving me an error, but that's fine. So if I go to the form itself and I run it now, right? So if I go back to here for now, and if I refresh, here's my cancel. If I click cancel, just wipes it out, right? So I put this press cancel, kills it. Well, I want this, but also when I click the cancel button, not only does it wipe it out, but I also go back a step. Okay, so we're going to figure out that next week. And I want to put this cancel button in place every form. So even login, cancel, right? I don't want to log in. How do I do that? I want to go back to the page, back to the previous page. So let's fix that one up as well. And I'll do this really quickly, and then I'll talk about other things to do for next week. So grab this, and then go into my login and put that button in place. So cancel, my reset button, and I'll save that. And the same thing goes for users. If I go to add, here's my submit button, right? Type of submit, put that back in there. And now we're missing something. Notice that we've got some field set stuff in here that we didn't have in my index.html. So here's my my login, and notice I have a field set with a form group of write text. So I want to kind of take this piece for a second and go back to my add, and we're going to do field sets. Field set back in here. Minor modifications, not too many, but just enough so we can prettify a little bit of the stuff that we've got going on here. Okay, cool. So this is my write button with write text, and I want to kind of make it so that it's all the same. And here's another one, return. Here's something, an href with a delete. Oh man, are you kidding me? I have this on click event. This is crazy. An on click event with a confirm. Do you really want to delete this with an on click? But otherwise, take a look. It's going to take me back, right? I'm going to delete my user ID. Well, this kind of thing is exactly what I want to do for my cancel button. I want to wrap it in an anchor tag, and that'll take me back to where I want to go. So this is what I want to do. But I also want to put in my field set in there. Oops. The bottom, actually, this one. And what I want to do is go back to my add. Right here's my add button. And go back to my edit. Put that back in place here. So I can do that. Press it next. Okay, so there's my form group add. And I want to wrap my button, my cancel button, in this tag here. So it's going to do what it's going to do, the classic thing, and then also take me back to this href, and it's going to have exactly what I want. On click. I don't need an on click because I don't need anything to happen. I just want it to take me back to this href tag, almost like a link, right? So let's try this out. So save, and we'll try it with the login page, right, or the register page. So register page, I want to wrap my button, my input, in a link. Let's try this out. So I'll say a tag, anchor tag. And just for simplicity, I want to change this from EJS for a second to HTML and kind of do one of these. So anchor, so give me that reference. And I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to go back to the root, right? That's all I want it to do. I don't want it to have anything else. I want to take this whole thing, and what I want to do is wrap it inside this and see if this works. So this register link, when I click onto it, it's going to cancel everything and then take me back. Let's see if that works. So I'll go back to my files and refresh. Here's my cancel button. Click it, and not working. Why? Because it has a function. It has a default value. I'm using it as a reset. So that's why it's taking on its default behavior. So change this back to a button. And remember, I want to do this href, and I want to go to the right place. Instead of going here, I want to go to, if I go to home, by the way, home.html, right? Just to let you know, if I go back and check that, is that even a route? If I go to partials and I go to my nav bar, and if I look at home, my home page, right? href is /. So that's not going to work. I got to be careful because it's the same kind of routing that I'm using right here. So again, go back to login, and I don't want to put that in. So here's my login page or my registration page. And what I want to do instead of this, I just want to have /, and here's my href, and then inside the loop, the link, this is it. But instead of making it a cancel, a reset button, make it a cancel button, and then see how that works. So go back here. That doesn't work. Register. Cancel. Oh, what happened? right? Well, let's see what happened actually here. So we're connected to MongoLab, right? But how come when I go back, right? So go back to here and refresh, I see it. But when I go to here and I go click register and I click cancel, oh, there we go. So it works. So it goes back to that. So that's the, maybe it was just logged off for a second when I reset everything. All right, so that's kind of the way to do it. You can wrap this button, and so I take this pattern that I have already. Why not? Why reinvent the wheel? And I use that pattern for the cancel button. That's going to go right here. So I'm just going to put that in there. Cancel button. Same thing with my my edit. So I already have my delete, right? So this will take me back, and it'll actually reset me back to my delete. So it'll actually do something if I do this. Here's my my add, right? I'm going to put this in my cancel right here, and just see if I can format this text. So again, I'm just going to kind of go one of these and move this over. Sorry guys, I know I'm running a little bit over, but I lost a little bit of time with the reset. So please bear with me while I do this. So for my delete, I have my delete button, but I also want to put in another one for my reset button. And the reason why is because I want to be able to reset or cancel my deletion. I don't want to do my deletion. I want to cancel it. I want to be able to click my button and do it. Okay, so now let's check the views. They're all done. Now what happens is what happened last time is it's just rebooted as soon as I do that change. So let's do that. And I want to go to my login screen. So refresh. Go to my login screen. Cancel. Oh man, how come my login screen? Did I miss that one? No login. Nope. Button, cancel. Did I refresh my page? Cancel. All right, so it cancels doesn't do anything because it's trying to go back to things. So that doesn't work. How about this one? That one works. But my login, for whatever reason, when I click the cancel button, that's a no-go. So make sure one more time that I'm looking at my login EJS file. Oh yeah, well, I've got to save. That'd be really good time. So save. Make sure it transpiles. Sorry guys, one more minute, I swear. All right, go back and go back to go back up to the top. And again, if I click refresh and click cancel, it takes me back. Log in, register, cancel, takes me back. When I log in finally, enter, takes me in there, add new user. Whoa, this is a problem, right? It's a real big problem. Cancel, because it's way over here now. Take me back. So what did I do differently for my new user? Add users, field set, and we have our method, we have our container, we have our form, and we have our main. What is different here than what we did before? We did something different here than what we did everywhere else. And we'll have to search for that. I'm going to fix this up for you guys. I'm probably missing something that I had before. But we're going to make it so that all the forms look the same. So pretty much we have the functionality in place with this little anchor tag that we put in. This little anchor tag trick, I guess, without any kind of CSS or JavaScript. We just make it so that it goes back. Be careful because some of these routing, sometimes if you put the wrong route in, it will fail. Okay, I'm going to go back. I'm not going to do any more work today. I'm going to go back to concept board and see if you guys have any more questions. So it looks like you guys are all good. So next week, just to kind of talk about what we're going to be doing next week is, so we've covered views this week. We've covered authentication, logging in, logging out, protecting a particular site. So we're protecting, for example, the user's administration page. But there are issues, and I want to fix them. Number one, I want to take away the password. I want to be able to hash my password when I create a user. I need to do that. And starting next week, I want to get into Angular. So please, next week, be prepared. We're going to talk about Angular, and we're going to be talking about Angular for the next 3 or 4 weeks, right until the end. All right. So, and also, I'm going to be ready to answer some questions for you on the Thursday because your first concept for your team is going to be due on the Friday. So please get together with your team. Again, up to 4 people are cool, and then talk about your concept. Make sure you get it in for, you're ready to put it in for Friday. And let me take a look at it on the Thursday to make sure that everything is good. So if there's no more questions, I'll see you next week. Enjoy your weekend. I know that some people are celebrating Easter this weekend. For those people who aren't, well, you're going to have an extra long weekend, which is good. And you'll be able to chance to rest up, and then, we'll come back all rested and ready to rock and roll. Okay, guys, thank you so much, and I appreciate the patience today. And we'll see you next week.